My name is Tanner Rodell. I'm a manager of business development here at Arsenal, and I've been here for about 4.5 years. Yeah, I had a buddy that was already working here. He gave me a call, kind of gave me a rundown of, the environment. And when I came in there for the first day to kind of see what was going on, shadow a few of the guys, I just liked, the camaraderie that was going on. It wasn't just people sitting in cubicles, keeping to themselves. There was a lot of banter going back and forth across the office. So I liked that. Everybody was pretty friendly, and it just seemed like an open environment to, learn and, gain new skills. So I think I was pretty correct in assuming, what the company was going to be like. And once I started working here, it all came true basically. Say the company culture is one that really kind of inspires you to be motivated and good at what you do. You see people next to you, just grinding and out and, creating new records, making new calls, and you don't want to be that person sitting next to them, kind of twiddling your thumbs. So it's really all about, what you put into this job. And I think that's one of the things that we hit home with, from the second you start. I'm a big believer in trial by fire, and that's kind of what it is in a sense. I mean, we're not going to put anybody on the phones that isn't ready, but you're not going to get experience from just talking back and forth from mock pitches and stuff like that. You want to get out there and really do it in the field. So I think that's a big thing here. You learn at your own pace, but you also want to get out there and make the calls, set appointments, have your own stories to tell to the camera sooner or later. But yeah, it's a fun, loving environment, and everybody's here to help. Things I enjoy most about working here is just the level of freedom that you're allowed to have as long as you're getting your work done. I've always hated micromanagement, and it's something that's needed every once in a while. But once you get the hang of something, you don't want somebody over your shoulder when you kind of want to make something into your own. So there's also a lot of different ways of managing pipelines and your sales and how you actually pitch. You have the freedom to do that here. You can make it into your own. You take bits and pieces of everybody else's pitch and how they manage certain parts of their pipeline, and get into an area where you're comfortable, because the key to success is you being organized and staying with people that may have told you they're not interested once upon a time. When you come back to them, there's something there, and that just makes it feel even better when you do go in there and set that appointment. So again, I think it's all just comes down to you get out what you put in, and that's one of my favorite parts about this company. I think this company has had a lot of opportunity for professional growth, especially coming in at a time where, the company wasn't even 5 years old yet. There's just a lot of opportunity for new roles being created, and, going to Aaron, our owner, and, kind of giving them an idea of what you want to do, and, knowing that more roles could be created in the future. So me personally, I started off as an SDR, went to a BDR, and then even tried my hand at an account executive. Had some success there, but I was needed back on the phones, as a BDR. So I made that transition back. Picked up right where I left off, and then the opportunity presented itself to become a manager of business development. And there's really no telling what the next opportunity is going to be from here. Yeah, I've had a lot of personal development during my time here at Arsenal. I've had a kid, I've gotten engaged, looking forward to finally having the wedding, next month. I think when it comes to personal development, it really coincides with, professional development as well. As you grow in your job, you're going to grow as a person. And that's also one of the things with, being on the phones. You really find out, what type of person you are, talking to all the other different types of people that you talk to, and just how you can, shift different tones, personalities, kind of become a chameleon in a sense. So, you don't want to come off as somebody fake, but there's different parts of you that you don't always put out to the world. And, that's something that I've really stressed in my life is, really putting that all together and using different aspects to be successful at what I do. I think what makes us different than other companies out there is just the sheer potential for growth. Some companies will hit a ceiling at a certain point, but there's just so many different avenues that we can go down for business development, in different industries. So if there's a need for sales, we can do it. The transparency is also, key here. We're very open about, what's going on among the company. There's no, like a veil over, leadership where, you're not really knowing what they're talking about behind closed doors. They might have, strategy meetings, but, all in all, when it comes down to it, they are being transparent about what's going on and the changes that are happening in the company, to help get us to where we want to be. You know, I think we're gunning for 8 million this year, but there's key strategies that are in place to get us to 10, 20, 30, 50 million. So that's what I love to hear. And I like how open they are about their goals and, where we need to be to make them. My advice for somebody that's looking to join Arsenal is just do it. Whether it's your first job, you had a bunch of jobs before where you weren't happy, this is going to be a place that is going to make you happy. Or if you don't already have experience, it's going to give you a lot of experience in the mean of, 10 days. You get a lot of experience here. 1 year here probably equals 5 years at another company. So there's no better time to work here than right now. We're still growing and we want to see you grow with companies. So, join in while you still can.